So thank you for indulging me with those readings. I imagine some of you got a little antsy hearing the Good Friday and Easter readings from the Gospel of Mark. Many of you know that today is Easter. You know that Easter is sort of the end of the story of Jesus. I wanted to include the Good Friday story as a reminder that there's more to the story than the big dramatic finale of Easter. We know the ending of the Easter story. It's the crux of Christianity. It's said that Jesus resurrected after his death. Actually, it's more complicated than that. Each of the four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, offer four different accounts of what that looked like. In the oldest and shortest version, the one that we just heard, there's no depiction of a resurrected Jesus. There's only an empty tomb and a frightened community of followers. You compare that with the last to be written, the Gospel of John. In that version, he appeared a couple of times to all of his disciples and showed them his wounds from the crucifixion. So there are actually four different endings of this story. Still, we think we know the ending and we jump to the ending. But knowing the ending ruins a story. Jumping to the ending closes the very important gap of waiting and suspense. A story needs a beginning, a middle, and an end. As Unitarian Universalists, our religious heritage is steeped in the lessons of Jesus that he taught while living, his reaching out to the lowest members of the community, his commitment to justice, an emphasis on love over following rules. He cooked up such a controversy of radical love that those in power thought he was too dangerous to be allowed to live. This rich, complicated story is just one of the many amazing stories that we draw from in our faith tradition. And when we jump to the end, especially when we jump to the end to object, we miss all the good stuff in the middle. A story needs a beginning, a middle, and an end. It takes some patience to live in the middle of a story, though. Sometimes you are very anxious that way. It reminds me of the student in class. Not every class has one, but most classes do. There's usually a student in the class that is just so tightly wound that they blurt out the answer to every question, before anyone else has a chance to think about it. UUs like answers. We like facts. We like to get there quickly and directly. This week, I'm going to ask us to consider a different approach. An approach that pays attention to the journey without immediately jumping to the end or blurting out the answer. According to the Christian liturgical calendar, Easter is the climax of the story. In our lives, though, we are still very much in the middle of the story. And in the middle, it's our task to stay open to hope. This spring, it feels like we're on the precipice, anticipating, waiting, hoping for some really big shifts in life. As a nation, we are again confronting systemic racism. We've had so many cycles of progress and resistance of this original sin of America. It seems that we're again ramping up for potential change. Similarly, change is in the air with regard to the environmental awareness. What once was a back burner issue is a point of major political conversation. The story of climate change and greener living is heating up fast. And of course, there is the story of COVID. We're sitting here still in the middle of one of the most dramatic stories of modern history. It's not an exaggeration. There is relief from COVID in sight, but this frightening journey is not over. Those of you who have been vaccinated already, you are among a very few very privileged in our human community. In so many ways, we're still in the middle of the story. It's an unnerving place to be. It remains our job to keep open to the possibilities of what still might come. During Thanksgiving, I know a lot of families have a tradition of naming something that they're each grateful for from the previous year. So this Easter, I want to invite us into a different tradition. I want us to name what we're hoping for in the coming year, not just what we're looking forward to when COVID restrictions reduce. We're all looking forward to hugging loved ones and going out to dinner. Beyond looking forward to what we know will happen, what are we hoping could happen? What new possibility are we holding our hearts open for? What new budding goodness will we work to nurture in the world? I hope that our experience with COVID will be a lesson about the very real interdependent web. I hope we learn that we cannot protect ourselves completely without also caring for our neighbors, whether that's with COVID vaccines or other vital healthcare resources. I hope we learn that we're better off in the long run when we make sure that everyone has what they need. This year, I hope that we come to terms with the history of racism in America. I hope we move with bold commitment to dismantle the many layers of racial inequity and prejudice in the world and in our own hearts. I know this struggle and this story feels like a particularly long one, a saga. And there are still many chapters yet to come. But this year, I hope that there is bold movement forward. And here, for us at Tapestry, I hope that we never forget the tremendous power of being together. We're a justice-oriented people. We like to go and do and change the world, and we like to learn and we like to sing. But this year, I hope we have learned that just being together, literally being together in the same place at the same time, is a power all its own. So that's my hope for us, that we show up for each other like never before. This is the season of hoping and dreaming, friends. With so much behind us and still a whole lot of uncertainty ahead. What do you hope will unfold in the coming chapters of our story? Amen.